I'm attempting to complete every single GameCube game, and I'm using a random number generator to pick the next game. Last episode, we got to go fast and play the Sonic Mega Collection. And in this episode, we're going to gain the power of the JuJus and play Tak, the Great JuJu Challenge. Tak, the Great JuJu Challenge was released on September 19th, 2005, and was developed by Avalanche Software and published by THQ. This wasn't what I was expecting this game to be, and I feel it overstayed its welcome. Before we get started, make sure to like this video because it helps out the channel, and subscribe if you're new so you don't miss any of the future games. Without further ado, this is my experience with Tak, the Great JuJu Challenge. In Tak, the Great JuJu Challenge, we're going to go through New Game to consider this one complete. The game opens up with a cutscene that takes place in the first person. But for some reason, we're taking a snooze in a pig pen? There is no context to this, but it's pretty silly to open up the game this way. This old elder dude tells us to get up because there is an event taking place in our village and we have to get a phoenix feather to enter the contest. What are these random rules that we need a phoenix feather to enter the contest? We don't pick the best two villagers and have them compete? We get another scene showing some of the other teams we're going to compete against, and then finally, after all that, we meet the two characters we're going to play the game with, Tak and Locke. This game is fully voice acted and has some big name actors that do them, including Patrick Warburton, or Sir Joe Swanson from Family Guy. There are a lot of attempts at comedy in this game as well, like in the opening when Locke keeps jumping off the edge because he respawns. This is breaking the fourth wall, and I'm living for it. If you don't know what this game is, it's a platformer that allows you to switch between Tak and Locke to solve different puzzles and defeat different enemies. We're able to jump and double jump and can either strike with a quick attack or a strong attack. The first thing we get to do is a tutorial level where we have to get that phoenix feather and learn how to play. Tak and Locke both have skills that the others can't do. Tak is able to swim in the water and Locke is able to climb vines, so we have to switch characters to tackle each puzzle section. Once we finish the level, we get another cutscene where the evil team, the Black Mist in this game, catches the Phoenix as we're running full sprint at it, and then we crash and burn. They take the feather and the Phoenix flies away. It looks like we're not going to be able to compete now, but in the next cutscene, when everyone is turning in their feathers, we show up at the last minute with one. I don't know what we did to get it, but we're finally able to start the Great JuJu Challenge. Between each level, we have a hub world where we have to run and jump into the portal for the level we want to compete in. Think of this as the paintings in Super Mario 64 or something like that. The first level we get to do is called Silverstone Coast and takes place in what looks like the top of mountains with a bunch of greenery around. Alright, let's talk about how each level works. In each level, we have a time limit that we have to finish the level by. There are hourglasses we can pick up and add time, points in the level that give us extra time, and checkpoints that give us 200 seconds added to our time. So if you know what you're doing, then time shouldn't be an issue. To advance in certain areas of the level, we have to defeat the enemies in that area, so that rocks explode or doors open. Sometimes we have to activate these totems, and I think that pretty much covers all the basic points of the game. And I'll point out anything new as we go along. I'm not going to show much of the levels because I think that would be boring. So we're just going to show highlights from here on out. If you fall off the level, you don't die, it just resets you back to the last checkpoint, so the only thing it really affects is your time, which is pretty important to your overall score. There are vines that we can zipline down, but I found that a lot of these wouldn't always respawn and I would just fall and die. Pretty annoying. At the end of each section, you'll find a portal that will open up, and we can take it to get to the next section of that level. Each one of these portals give you 200 seconds on the timer, which is very helpful. One of the fun things in this game is when they give you explosive barrels to blow up rocks to advance. You can either set them down and throw a magic rock thing at them, or you can just melee them. If you melee it, it will hurt you though. Another thing I want to point out is that if the player you're using runs out of health, you reset back to a checkpoint. But if the character that you're not controlling runs out of health, then it's fine. I use this to my advantage sometimes when I was about to die fighting an enemy. During levels, you can find side quests that you can do, but takes away from your overall time still. so I didn't think these were very useful, besides that it gives you items for recipes, or just giving you straight up recipes, which I will cover later in this video. So I skipped most of them, but I did want to find out what they were and to show everyone. This one has us sliding down vines to get to the end by jumping from one to the next one. It was pretty hard. I also found out that I can throw tack in the air during this quest, which is pretty helpful later on. I had no idea that we could do that beforehand. The next big thing we discover is the ability to ride on animals. The first one is a rhino, and all we have to do is wake it up by finding a baby rhino, and the baby's cry wakes it up or something. The rhino will help us destroy these spiky vine things on the ground so we can advance further into the level. This game throws a lot of the basics at you in the very first level of the game. At the end of each level, there is an enemy gauntlet that we have to do to finish the level. Usually these are pretty easy. I really like that the end of each level is ended with something different and not just more platforming stuff. Alright, now comes the important part of the game. The part of the game that's actually advancing the plot. At the end of each level, we get scores for things we do in the level, starting with time remaining on our clock, enemies defeated, bugs collected, fruits collected, and crystals collected. This is all added together for each character, and then those scores are added together to get your team score for the level. Once we come out of the level, it shows the scoreboard of all the teams and what place we're in. This matters a bit later in the game, but for right now it doesn't really matter. But we did score the best on this level and finished that level in first place. The next level we unlock is called Temple of Light and takes place inside of a temple. For most of the level anyways. But before that, we get a cutscene with one of the other teams, which is two bros that decide that beatboxing is the best form of communication. The beginning of this level has us using switches to open up doors, so we have to force the other character to stop following us and stand in place. The things we get behind the doors aren't all that useful, but I thought it was something to point out because we use it a lot later on in the game. This level also has us shooting these cannon things to break down rocks so we can jump across the sand without being eaten by a scary creature from the deeps of the sand. In this level I ran out of time and I wanted to show what happens. If you run out of time, you should just restart the level, because if you choose to finish the level, you don't get any of the time bonus for the level at the end, and your score will be horrible. I just wanted to point this out because I'm sure somebody would have asked. Actually, ask anyways, because comments fuel my soul. The second part of this level is my favorite type of sections in this game, where the screen is split and you switch between the characters in different areas that have objects that help the other characters advance. This is the most puzzle-like section, and I really liked when the game added these in. This one mainly has buttons, but there are some pretty cool ones in the future. At the end of the Temple of Light level, we have to ride an elevator down to leave the temple, and it stops from time to time, and we have to defeat the enemies and destroy their spawning rocks for the elevator to move again. Another enemy gauntlet, but a cool take on it. After finishing levels, we also get cutscenes with characters known as JuJus that will grant us some sort of power for our characters. These are usually pretty good, but I really like this laid back, I'm on vacation skeleton guy that gives us powers. They all have names, but I have no clue what any of them are. We finish the Temple of Light with a score of 10,654 and stay in the first place position on the ranking board. Go us! The next level we unlock is called Caster's Hill, and I think it takes place in a foggy swamp area, but I'm not sure. The level does give us a new thing we have to do to advance in the level. We have to chant a spell, and we have to do this by hitting the buttons that pop up. The faster you do it, the faster we can complete the spell, and if we miss any buttons, then the bar on the side goes down a bit. So I wasn't too worried about speed and just made sure I got the buttons correct. Once we complete it, it causes a bridge to rise up from the fog so that we can move forward. There are treadmills in this level too that we can run on to cause things to lower or raise for the other characters to get across. Sometimes they have us run long enough to lower it and then we can get off, or sometimes we have to find a sheep and make it run non-stop so we can get across with the other character. Either way, it's pretty weird. We got to fight our first boss enemy in this level. It's not really a boss, but it's way stronger than what we faced up to this point. And we have to hit it a total of 3 times to break it down and finally defeat it. It does this front flip thing that will knock off his legs, and then it will roll at us with just his head. You can't hit it right away after it falls apart, so it takes a minute to get rid of. That's our enemy gauntlet for this level, and we finish Caster's Hill with a score of 7,975. Not the best, but it keeps us in first place, so I'm happy with the result. Once you complete the first set of levels, we get a completely different level called Proving Grounds, which has us select cars and compete in like a derby to see who gets the most points. The team that has the lowest points is supposed to be eliminated. Remember how I said the standings don't really matter during the levels? This is when it does. The team in first place gets to pick the car they want to use out of the 4 available. So the last place team just gets whatever's remaining. We could pick from Balanced, Speedy, Tough, and Powerful. The first 2 explain themselves, but Tough means that it has high defense and Powerful means it does more damage. So that's the difference between those 2. We got to pick first, so I went with the Powerful car because I wanted to cause carnage and score big points. During this event, we have to hit the other cars. If you hit them head on, you don't get points. Hitting them in the back gives you 25 points, and if you do enough damage to destroy the car, you get 100 points. If your car blows up, then you respawn, and the team with the most points after 200 seconds wins the Proving Ground. But since the last team is the only one that gets eliminated, it means we just can't finish in last, and that's it. It controls decent enough, but seems really out of place in this game. We finish this round in second place, and the Black Mist get eliminated from the competition. Or they should, anyways. After this, we get a cutscene that shows that the Black Mist actually didn't lose because the JuJu that was keeping track of score doesn't know how to count. So they get to stay in. This is when I knew the game was going to be way longer than it would ever need to be. Once we get out of the cutscenes, we go back to the hub of the world, and now we have new areas of portals for new levels to complete. The first is called Curo Bureau and takes place on a beach. This level gives us one of the most random things in this game. You can find these like little hut things, and our characters can dress up in a costume and perform something they wouldn't be able to normally. Locke dresses up like a lobster, and we're able to walk on the floor of bodies of water and cut ropes to allow for Tack to advance further into the level. Tack can also dress up, but I'll talk about that when we get there. Nothing really happens outside of that, but the enemy gauntlet has new enemies that are these little worm things that shoot stuff at us. But besides that, there's not really anything new, and we finished Curo Bureau with a score of 10,257. And it allows for us to stay in first place. The next level is called Parchlands, which takes place in the desert with a bunch of sand and old bones laying around everywhere. This level lets us throw barrels to destroy the objects in our way, and we're even able to ride a new animal called the Mammoth, which just lets us control him and destroy monsters and spiky vines to unlock totems to advance the area. A new enemy shows up that is like a mage or something that teleports underground and is a giant pain most of the time. I found out we had the ability to grapple Locke from long distances, and I wish the game would have said something beforehand. But this is really cool. It allows for us to get across massive gaps in the level. Another new enemy shows itself in this level. It's a big like golem thing that has crystals on its stomach and back, and we have to knock off each crystal before we can defeat it. It's not that hard to fight, but it only has specific windows where you can hit it. Then we get one of the most annoying things ever. These swinging rocks that will knock us off the level and back to the checkpoint. It's all about timing, and it took me a few tries to get it down. Why must this game do things to me that hurt so much? Our enemy gauntlet this time has us sitting in a cannon and shooting a bunch of small enemies and those golem things that I was talking about before. Being in the cannon makes this super easy, and we're able to defeat them all and finish the level with little to no problems. We finished Parchland with a score of 12,308, which is our highest score up to this point, and allows for us to stay in the lead because we're the best at this game. This is going to change heading into the later levels though, mainly because I didn't want to redo them. The last level of this section is called Gates of Nocturne, and I was expecting something scary or dark, but we're just in the sky jumping around on beanstalks or something. It's bright and colorful, and is the exact opposite of what I was thinking it would be. During the enemy gauntlet at the end, it's darker, but I don't think it's all that bad still. We have to fight a new enemy that can turn itself into a tornado and escape our attacks. They're not that hard to fight, but can take a while because they're always spinning away from us. We finished Gates of Nocturne with a score of 10,678 and finished this section with a demanding lead, and we are able to pick our car first again. in Proving Grounds Part 2. But before we do that, let's talk about the recipes that we can mix up and help upgrade our characters. Using the bugs and crystals we collect throughout the levels, we can make recipes that will give us attachments for our character that will increase their health, attack, mana, and spells, which makes it easier to take out enemies in the future. This is something I didn't know about because, again, the game doesn't tell you that you can do this, but here I am over halfway through the game and learning that I can upgrade my characters. In the Proving Grounds, we used the powerful car again and finished in second again, and Black Mist get eliminated again. But this time they get out of it because supposedly the Gramazon girls use their fake teeth to get an advantage or something, and they get eliminated for cheating, and the Black Mist can move on to the next section of the game. This takes out the Gramazon girls for good, only 2 teams to compete against now. We unlock more levels to compete in, and the first one is called Fowler's Murk, which is in fact a swamp level. But before that, we hear that the Black Mist might be doing something shady, and that we should keep our eyes on them. The only real new thing that happens in this level is that Tak finally gets his costume with that special ability. Tak dresses up like a chicken, and using these wind geysers, we can fly around in the costume and drop eggs to destroy stuff underneath us. He's very slow in this form, and we can't do much of anything else. We also have to fight a brand new enemy that looks like a giant rock golem thing that has crystals on his chest that we have to time throwing our magic spells at it in order to do any damage to it. It's slow, so as long as we stand back, it can't really hurt us at all. That's the end of Fowler's Murk, and we finish with the score of 7,239 in this level. Not the greatest, but it will do, because at the moment we're still in first place in the overall standings. The next level is called Deepwood and takes place in a wooded area with massive rocks that we have to climb with Locke and switch to Tak that's on a cannon to take out things in Locke's way. I really like this part because it was quick and different. We don't really have an enemy gauntlet in this one, just climbing up the vines and taking out anything in our way at the end to finish the level. I didn't do well on this level when we finished it and ended with a score of 2,431. This was the worst score I got that wasn't a level I finished without time. We finished that level, still in first in the overall rankings, but our lead was cut into quite a bit. The last level for this section of the game is called Ambush Grove, which takes place in a rainy mountainside with a lot of jumps and puzzles to lower platforms that can help us move forward in the level. Nothing else really happens in this level besides the end, which has us jumping from cannon to cannon, shooting these golem things that throw lava at us. When the cannon gets hit, it overheats, and we have to move to the next one. It's pretty fun actually, but it sort of lasts longer than it should in my opinion. For some reason, I didn't get a score for that level. Like, I don't have footage of it, so I'm not sure what I ended with. I guess you could figure it out by looking at the starting score on the ranking table and what it ended up being. But it didn't really matter to me because somehow the Black Mist scored massive points and took the first place spot. On to the next Proving Grounds. This is going to be part 3 of basically the same game. Yet again, I don't think you can actually beat the Black Mist here because they're scoring massive points now in all the events. We just need to not finish last, which we don't, and Jibba Jabba Tribe is eliminated. Then we get a cutscene showing that the Black Mist want to use the JuJu power to destroy everything, basically, and since this challenge is set in stone or something, she would have to do it if they win. We're told that we must win the JuJu challenge, and everything is on us. The next level is called Gastfall and is one of the last 2 platform levels in the game. This one takes place in an area that looks like a poisonous bog or something. It seems like being in the water would be a very bad idea. We even get a look at the sheep treadmill thing that I was talking about in the beginning of the video. The enemy gauntlet at the end of this level is very disappointing and just has us fighting enemies that we've fought a million times before. I didn't care for this level at all. No score again, but we didn't do well in this level and the Black Mist is moving far ahead of us. The only issue with this is that they get to pick the car first in the Proving Grounds, but since it's just us versus them, I wasn't worried about the score at this point. The last level in this game is called Obokodubo Crypt, and if I screwed that up, I'm sorry. I have no idea how to say it. This level is another split screen level, and I love these levels. This one is much harder because we have to open things and set up barrels for the other characters, and then switch sides because Locke can't swim. This one took a lot of thought, and I appreciate that. We also get the cringiest thing I've ever heard when Tak and Locke rap for some reason. So I'll let you listen to that for a second, because why was this even added?
My name is Tech, and that's a fact. Don't give me no lip or I'll attack. Doing this challenge is really tough. The Black Mist stink, and they play rough. But it don't matter, we don't mind, cause in the end, we're gonna kick behind.
We end this level by taking out waves of enemies to light up each totem, and we have to fight these turtle things that are a huge pain because you have to flip them over before you can do any damage to them. And finally, we finish the level with a score of 5,412. Not a great score, but I'll take it. The Black Mists are crushing us in the standings, so they get to pick the first car in the last proving ground. But not before we find out that one of the Black Mist members was actually a different person that's like super evil, and everyone thought he was gone or something. All I know is that he really likes this JuJu girl with all the powers. So our final goal is to take out the Black Mist and win the Great JuJu challenge. This should be easier said than done, because when in this proving ground, no matter what the score is with the Black Mist, they match your score at the end. Meaning that we have to do this 3 times and win 3 times to beat the game. It's not hard, but it's pretty annoying. On our first round, we finished with a score of 1,665, which I think is a good score. The next round, we get a score similar to it, and in the final round, we take a huge lead on them and figure out they're cheating, so the score doesn't match at the end, and we win with a massive score of 1,955. What a wonderful year. Then we get our final cutscene that has Tack and Lock coming back to the bar thing that everyone hangs out in, and is expecting a huge party, but there's no one there besides the old man, and he's just cleaning. The cutscene does end with an epic slow motion high five between our characters, and then the credits roll. We finished Tack the Great JuJu Challenge. Would I recommend this game? I don't think I would. There isn't anything wrong with the game. I feel it plays good, and some of the cutscenes and story moments are funny. I just think the game runs out of ideas when it comes to gameplay levels. Maybe if the game was a bit shorter, I would recommend it, but I just can't for this one. But let me know what you think about it in the comments below. If you want to know what's next, stick around, but if not, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, like, and share this video, and we will see you in the next one. We got our random number generator up at 538. We got our game list. A bunch of games we still haven't played yet. And on the count of 3, we are going to find out what is next. So in 3, 2, 1. 216. What is that? What is that? What is that? We're pretty close to it. 216 is Knockout Kings 2003. So a boxing game. And I don't know how that's going to work. So I'll have to figure that out. But boxing could be interesting. I've not played a boxing game.